Hello, it's Iron Port, proudly brought to you by Ghana Community Network Services, West Blue Consulting and Ghana Oil Company Limited, GOIL. The proud media partner for this program, as always, is Business and Financial Times. And folks, this week, they're very much talked about fraudulent activities by some clearing agents who forge documents of the Port Authority to dupe unsuspecting importers as well as exporters. This is what we are talking about. And let me give you a background of the particular subject that we're talking about this week. Now, the past couple of days, the Port Authority has arrested some 4 clearing agents who have forged documents or invoices of the Port Authority to dupe the Catholic Secretariat. The Catholic Secretariat, they have the right or mandate by customs to clear their own goods from the port. They don't require any special agents to do that. And by so doing, they have their own employees who clear on their behalf. Now, this is what the employees have been doing. Anytime they collect invoice on the internet from the Port Authority, they go and doctor those invoices, put in their own figures, and then present it to the Catholic Secretariat and collect a lot more money than what the Port Authority requires. And then they take the rest and pocket it somewhere. They do whatever they want to do with it. The people don't fear God. The Port Authority says anytime you suspect that your invoice is not exactly what it is, you can come to them. In the meantime, they are embarking on serious clampdown on all the thieves who have been stealing from unsuspecting importers as well as the Port Authority. We spoke with the finance manager of the Port Authority, and in a very serious and deep conversation, folks, you need to take a listen and then be very cautious. We have been hearing that people forge the documents of the Port Authority. We started hearing this like 2 years ago, a year ago. It's been there. Is this true?
Yes, it's true. Of course, as a human institution, you have unscrupulous ones, and they will always want to take advantage of
some loopholes in the system.
And then just make money out of it. In particular, they have been forging our invoices for some time now.
Who are they?
And those are the clearing agents, who are some unscrupulous guys of the freight forwarders. And then sometimes too, you have institutions that are self-declarants by custom standards, who have their staff or employees, and those employees who are supposed to clear goods for those
on behalf of those companies
also end up defrauding their companies.
Those companies.
Exactly.
So just to get this clear for those who don't know, the institutions that are self-declarant, these are supposed to be institutions who themselves have the mandate from customs
to clear
goods by
on
themselves.
Their own. Yes.
So they don't need external custom house agents. Okay.
And GPHA has a self-declarant status.
Okay. And you are saying that people who clear goods on behalf of such companies can, or sometimes they have ended up duping, forging documents of GPHA to dupe those organizations.
Exactly. It's not limited to only those who clear for such companies like self-declarants, even the customs house agents who clear for individual consignees, just like you and me, when you have brought in cargo and you want an agent to clear.
People have been forging documents.
End up defrauding you by forging documents of GPHA, in particular the invoice, the shore handling invoices, or which we popularly refer to as the cash delivery invoices.
And the painful thing is that in the end, people are sitting in the US, Australia, and New Zealand and saying the Port Authority is very, very expensive.
Expensive, yes. And that is what makes us to be worried about this kind of trend, because the idea is that the port is expensive, but the port truly is not expensive. If there's an invoice of, say, 1,000 cedis, and an agent goes to increase it to, say, 3,000, to the customer, he sees the bill for the port as 3,000, but it is actually 1,000. And that is why the port has serious interest in fighting this kind of practice.
It looks as if there's a big fight ahead for the Port Authority, and we are going to be talking about that. But in the meantime, there's this scenario, or there's this situation that we were invited to take a look at, and that is the Catholic Secretariat that you mentioned earlier. That the agents or the individuals who are supposed to clear goods on their behalf actually forged GPHA documents and duped the whole Catholic Secretariat.
Interesting.
Very interesting. I'm sure viewers will be interested in seeing this. We're going to take a look at that one. When we come back, we'll deal with the details of this particular story.
The Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority has waged a war against clearing agents and unscrupulous individuals who forge and inflate GPHA invoices to defraud importers. The vigilance of the port security has led to the arrest of 4 alleged fraudulent clearing agents who inflated GPHA invoices in order to extort monies from importers. The culprits are contracted agents taxed by the Catholic Secretariat, which is a self-declarant organization to clear goods on their behalf. It's alleged that the 4 culprits, without the knowledge of their employers, declared forged invoices to their customers and split the profits at the expense of the Port Authority and the Ghana Catholic Secretariat. Their fraudulent activity was reported to have gone on for over a year, with defrauded amount totaling 20,000 Ghana cedis. The finance manager of Tema Port, Tibon Zuma, stated that the alleged fraudsters are to pay a penalty of 60,000 Ghana cedis as per GPHA policy.
Once you engage in such fraudulent activity, you are supposed to pay 3 times the defrauded amount. In this particular case, the total is 20,000 Ghana cedis roughly. So we would multiply that by 3 and require them to pay.
He lamented that the actions of the 4 arrested clearing agents go a long way to create the impression that the cost of doing business in Ghana's ports is expensive.
The most important and critical issue is the effect that these things have on the ports. It makes the ports look very expensive, which is not right.
Tibon Zuma revealed that GPHA is working assiduously on technical measures to create the atmosphere where customers of the port have a very transparent access to clearance details to save them such undue cost and also protect the reputation of the Port Authority.
We're looking at those alternatives to make sure that at least the consignees get involved, they get access to the invoice, so that if a clearing agent comes to tell you this is what I have printed from GPHA, at least you can also verify.
Tema Port Security Manager Joseph Pudaman hinted that the alleged fraudulent clearing agents will also be banned from working in the port to serve as a deterrent to others.
What we are going to do is to hand them over to the police and also fine them up as per the rules here.
This, according to him, is required before prosecutorial measures at the police level will take place.
Just take a look at this, Mr. Zuma.
Yeah.
I know you are very meticulous. Almost everybody in the port talks about how meticulous and thorough you are. How can this happen in this day and age? How can the Port Authority's documents be forged and people who are supposed to be trusted by an institution such as the Catholic Secretariat be duped in this manner?
What happened to the National Catholic Secretariat is not different in other institutions.
I see.
It appears the agents have set out to take advantage of technology to also apply it wrongly and to defraud a lot of people. We have individuals walking in from time to time to test their invoices, and they come in, you test it, and it is forged. But let's get back to the National Catholic Secretariat. Exactly. What happened was that because they are self-declarants, they are hooked to the GCNet platform. So their employees who are supposed to be clearing for them got invoices and presented to the institution to take money to come and pay the ports. And when they presented those invoices, I think their head at the time decided to go into the GCNet platform to see what was there. But she was not too clear. She was not getting the invoices clear. So she decided, no, let me go to the port and test it.
How was the Catholic Secretariat able to access the GCNet platform? Are they allowed?
Exactly.
Or because they are self-declarant, they are...
Because of our paperless regime,
Okay.
the agents are able to have access to the invoices at the comfort of their homes or offices. Their boss was able to look at the invoice and to realize some problems. So she decided to come and test it with the Port Authority. So she came in, we tested the invoice and realized that it was forged.
Wow.
So she became alarmed and we requested that, look, if you have more there, go and bring them.
More of the invoices.
More of the invoices, go and bring them, and then we can test them for you. So she brought them, and then lo and behold,
all of them were
turned out
forged.
to be forged.
Wow.
And so we set out to look for those specific agents or employees of the Catholic Secretariat who decided to
Done that.
forge those documents. And we got them at the time that they had come to renew their licenses for 2018, and we picked them up.
You talked about the fact that in this case, because the Catholic Secretariat is self-declarant, they were able to access the GCNet and then could realize that we have a problem.
Yes.
What if an agent was dealing with someone, an institution or an individual who is not self-declarant?
Yes. That is the problem.
Because that one who is not self-declarant can't have access to the GCNet platform.
No, so
You'll be duped forever.
Yes, just like any individual, like you, if you import cargo and you appoint an agent to clear your goods for you, you are not able to have access to the invoice.
Yes.
You don't have access to the invoice.
It's only the agent who has access to the
For
invoice.
now, it's only the agent who has access to the invoice. And so if he comes to tell you, this is the invoice from GPHA, unless you follow him or you
the
ask
Port
him
Authority.
to access the platform in your presence, for you to
Which may not be
verify.
possible.
Which
You may
not
be in the
possible.
US or
Exactly.
Canada.
You will
and
not
you'll
be
doing it
able
on
to.
your behalf.
You will not be able to know the true invoice. You will just trust on.
But
the
this
honor
is
of
dangerous,
agent.
Mr.
Yes,
Zuma,
very,
I
very
think.
dangerous. Very, very dangerous. And I think, as a port, I believe that is where that's the next stage of our regime, to make sure that we are able to give access to the consignee or the importer to also know the invoice that he has to pay when it comes to the GPHA charges or the port charges.
No, a lot of people watching may be wondering, is this not the port of Ghana that is now paperless?
Yes.
If it's paperless in the first place, what are we still doing with paper invoice that can be doctored? If it's also paperless, why can't I sit in Canada or New Zealand or Australia and be able to know what I'm supposed to pay to the port?
Yes, it's paperless, but you are able to access the invoice. And
Who is
because
able to access the
the
invoice then?
agent,
The agent.
the agent is able to access the invoice.
You
So
can
he-
print a hard copy.
You can print a hard copy.
Okay.
Then you scan it and you start playing games with it.
Do you still
And
use the hard copy?
We don't use the hard copy invoices, but they are able to use that to get to the consignee, to tell the
Okay.
consignee that, look,
This
this
is
is
the
how
amount
much
you are paying.
you have to pay to
Can't the
GPHA.
consignee have access to the soft copied version of the invoice?
The consignee for now hasn't got access
Wow.
to that, and that is what I told you. That is the next stage of the development of within the paperless regime, I
Who is
believe.
spearheading this?
Yes,
Should it
no,
be customs?
the
Should it be? Is it the Port Authority? Because now your documents
yeah,
can
it's
be
the
forged.
exactly is the Port Authority together with the other stakeholders, GCNet in particular, because for GCNet, as we engage them, we'll get to know the ability to be able to populate these invoices even on their platform. So wherever you are, you should be able to see, perhaps with the bill of lading number or any other particular identification, to be able to access your invoice or to know how much you will pay to the ports. There are things that we have to explore to make sure that ultimately the consignee or the importer gets to know how much he's
They're
to pay
supposed to pay.
to the port. Until this happens, we will
We will not
continue to
solve
have
any problem.
problems,
I see.
because there are people who really want to take advantage
Of the
of
gaps.
technology in a bad sense.
I see.
Exactly.
And let's get specific, because I'm interested in this Catholic Secretariat
yes,
thing.
yes.
What sort of monies were taken? It appears there were about 5 different people involved.
Yes,
What-
they in fact, unfortunately, almost all the employees of Catholic Secretariat within their the section that does the clearing got involved in this mess.
Wow,
Almost all of them.
From
All-
Catholic Secretariat.
exactly, they were all stealing from the Catholic. Sometimes it's interesting.
Wow.
I mean,
In the church.
In the church.
No, people don't fear God.
they don't
beyond
fear
that,
God,
how do
seriously.
How do we make put fear of God in people.
Exactly.
Using policies and our own measures to force people to fear that this shouldn't be done.
I believe that we have to fight this through technology.
Okay.
In fact, that is the best and the surest way.
Yeah.
Because if the importer sits in Canada or in America and he's able to know how much he is to pay,
you can't lie to them. You can't give them a forged document.
Yes. You cannot give any forged document and say that this is how much you have to pay to the port.
But why is this so difficult? Yes. I thought this is what everybody was expecting to see when we had paperless.
I believe it is just but a stage that we are going through. And I think this aspect, you know, as you implement systems, you get to see other sides. And
how soon do you think this can be pushed?
No,
looking at where you sit, because it's your money that's going.
Yes. It's not just the money of the port going, but the image of the port.
Yeah.
It gives out a very bad image.
Yeah.
I mean,
very bad.
It looks as if the port is very expensive, but in actual fact, it is not.
The case. So even when you intend to increase tariff, like we heard that possibly it will be coming up, people think that you're already charging so high. Why do you have to increase again?
And it is because of what they are seeing. Because people are forging documents and increasing
to make you look very expensive.
Exactly. So with this, the person picks 3,152 ostensibly to go and pay the port authority, but he moves out and goes to get the actual invoice, which is 1,525, and that is what he goes to pay
to the port.
To the port, because that's the true invoice. Yes. So the port will not lose in terms of money.
Yes.
But in terms of reputation, he would have made money on the back of the port authority, and then to the Catholic Secretariat, the port is expensive.
Yeah.
But this idea of giving cash to your customers to go or to your employees to go and pay for clearance is neither here nor there. I mean,
but who should pay?
You know, you are supposed to pay, but now, especially with the paperless regime, we have electronic platforms.
Okay.
So you don't need to give cash to anybody.
You can go to the bank, pay yourself
directly.
So you are advising that the importers and the institutions shouldn't be dealing with agents when it comes to money.
Exactly. So for me, if your agent comes to say, whether self-declarant or individual, comes to say that, look, this is how much you have to pay to the port. Okay. This is the invoice, isn't it? This is the amount. Pay to the port. So
but what about an option that, because the person may be busy somewhere in some foreign country, what about insisting that, yes, I've given you this amount of money, but if it's a banker's draft or whatever, pay to the bank and give me a receipt from the bank?
Yes, that is also another idea. If you pay directly to the bank the same amount, that is it. Okay. He cannot have access to it.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it goes to the port, and at the end of the day, it will be established that you have overpaid the port authority.
Okay.
And you will get your refund.
Okay.
We should also look at the payment options available and make sure that we explore those ones. For instance, if I have to make a payment, like the Catholic Secretariat, I don't see why Catholic Secretariat should give cash to somebody. I don't see why. Look, you can, these days, the banking systems are all over. You can set up in your offices electronically. So somebody brings you an invoice, and in their case, they can even have access to the GCNet platform. So they can just pay directly and know that they have paid to the port authority, just move into the port.
So the port authority is very vigilant about this. The customs as well, very vigilant. We'll be speaking to the Commissioner of Customs pretty shortly, and you hear his version of how they are dealing with all these people who are parading around claiming to be agents but don't mean any good either for country or for our importers. Eye on Port returns after the break.
Hello.
Good morning, this is Samantha Wendy. I am sending a purchase order from SA2 Ventures International. Our policy for new supplies is 2 containers to start with, but you must deliver within 30 days.
Don't worry at all. I'm going to get you the 4 containers within 30 days or less. Bye.
To get his pineapple slices from his country to his clients overseas, Mr. Appiah and his representatives
have to complete a number of regulatory compliance procedures to various international trade stakeholders.
Hey, Baba, what's going on? Can't you right? I mean, how?
Using single window, Mr. Appiah has completed all his international trade procedures through one portal. He has registered his company information, applied for the necessary permit, certificates and licenses, and all that remains is for him to get a text alert for clearance and movement of goods. And that's how simple facilitating international trade could be in a single window environment. You can offer competitive services to your trading partners in China, America, even here in a simpler, faster, and cost-effective way. Single window, the only way to Ghana's economic growth is in our hands.
When cleaning your vehicle by valeting, steaming, waxing, or polishing, make sure the engine is also sound. Servicing your vehicle with Gold Synthetic Oil and any quality Goil oil massages the engine, removes deposit, protects it from wear and tear for longer lasting performance, and makes your vehicle feel pampered. Made for diesel and super engines. Remember, after every 15,000 kilometers of enjoying your ride, service your engine with Goil Synthetic Oil.
We're a champion. That's why I, Azuma Nelson, 3 times world boxing champion and a patriot, always choose Goil.
Ashene Pankasa. Goil, good energy.
News within the local and international scene around the port and maritime business. Next on your screens.
Your preferred oil and gas hub and container terminal in the sub-region and Ghana's premier port, the Port of Takoradi, registered one of its best performances in the year 2017. Records indicate that transit trade to the landlocked countries of Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger increased by 152% from 81,705 metric tons to 205,565 metric tons.
And for the first time in so many years since the Takoradi port started the transit trade, 2017 we started handling clinker and gypsum for cement factories like Simaf in Burkina Faso. This went a long way to increase the traffic through the port.
The Port of Takoradi also recorded 35% and 29% growth in imports and exports respectively in the year 2017. A Deputy Marketing and Corporate Affairs Manager of Takoradi Port, Pitamu Bediako, attributed these significant growths to the expanded bulk jetty, which enabled bigger vessels to call the port.
410 meters of the new bulk jetty were completed for operation. And this also contributed to the traffic growth.
He said container traffic in Takoradi Port generally increased from 45,000 TEUs in 2016 to 53,000 TEUs in 2017, resulting in 10% increase from 2016's recorded figures. He attributed this to the partnership between the Port of Takoradi and the new privately owned Takoradi Container Terminal, Takotel. He revealed that vessel calls at the port increased by 25 vessels and cargo throughput also increased by 2 million metric tons from 6 million metric tons in 2016 to 8 million metric tons in 2017.
The inclusion of coming into operation of Takotel also contributed to container traffic increase, because hitherto we didn't have the space, the capacity to handle more container traffic.
Pitamu Bediako stated that the port is open for business and it is the management's priority to maintain it as the preferred hub for maritime logistics, oil and gas businesses in the sub-region.
With the shipping community to the economic operators, I want to tell them that the Port of Takoradi is open for business. The management of the port will continuously monitor the logistics chain to ensure that at the end of the day, when they do business with Takoradi Port, their costs are reduced, their turnaround time is greatly improved.
Ghana's leading oil marketing company, GOIL, has attributed the several awards picked up by the company in the year 2017 to the quality of its products. GOIL was adjudged the third largest company in the Ghana Club 100 list of companies in Ghana for the year 2016 and the second best listed company at the Ghana Stock Exchange. The company also won Brand of the Year at the Ghana Energy Awards, whereas the group CEO and managing director, Patrick Akwali, was named the CEO of the Year, Petroleum Sector. GOIL's bulk distribution company, Go Energy, was also named the Bulk Distribution Company of the Year, and at the 14th Ashanti Business Excellence Awards, GOIL picked up the Platinum Award Energy Sector. Chief Operating Officer of GOIL, Alex Axiu, says GOIL will continue to strengthen structures to maintain its status as a leading oil marketing company in Ghana. He highlighted that even in the unstable atmosphere of the industry, GOIL will continue to grow strategically to consolidate its gains.
Unfortunately for us, the industry rather dipped. But in terms of sales, we grew about 6%, and it's in tandem with the growth that the country experiences. So I would say that in terms of growth, we have done very well in the midst of all other dipping.
He acknowledged the loyal customers for contributing to GOIL's success.
Without the support of the masses, without the purchasing power of Ghanaians, we will not be where we are. So to be frank with you, we are dedicating all the awards to them. And anytime anybody goes to any of our stations to purchase even a liter of product, they should bear in mind that they have contributed to the success story of GOIL. When the success story of GOIL is being told, we will never leave out Ghana.
The CEO of Go Energy, Jemfi Amankwa, opined that the award only confirms the belief customers and stakeholders have in Go Energy.
The relevance of that award is to confirm the belief our customers and the stakeholders have in Go Energy. Moreover, it's a recognition that we are doing well. At the same time, it's also telling us that they're expecting more.
Switzerland-based container shipping, Mediterranean Shipping Company (MSC), is introducing a new Ro-Ro West Africa service for rolling, project and break bulk cargo. This new Ro-Ro service to West Africa will start on February 19th from Le Havre. Two vessels will be deployed, MSC Immaculata and MSC Christiana, operating on a fortnight basis with the following rotation: Le Havre, Antwerp, Dakar, Conakry, Abidjan, Le Havre. According to MSC, in addition to rolling or wheeled cargo, this new service offering will have the flexibility to cover a range of out-of-gauge and break bulk cargo, which will be typically large, heavy pieces, or critical equipment for specific projects. MSC has been serving African markets since 1971. 8 out of 11 seafarers who were left in limbo in the port of Durban, South Africa, after their ship was detained, are about to be repatriated. The 11 crew members from the tug supply ship PSD2, detained following non-payment of wages, had not been paid for up to 15 months. It's reported that arrangements are being made for the vessel to be sold, and the men are expected to get paid when this happens. Miami-based cruise liner conglomerate Royal Caribbean Cruises Limited has reported a full-year US GAAP and adjusted earnings of $1.63 billion, a growth of 23.8% year-over-year. The 2017 full-year results beat the January 2017 midpoint guidance by $115 million and was achieved despite an unusually ferocious hurricane season, which hurt earnings by approximately $55 million. RCL said that it had achieved its 3 years double-double goal of doubling earnings per share and recording a double-digit return on invested capital.
When cleaning your vehicle by valeting, steaming, waxing or polishing, make sure the engine is also sound. Servicing your vehicle with Gold Synthetic Oil and any quality Goil oil massages the engine, removes deposit, protects it from wear and tear for longer lasting performance, and makes your vehicle feel pampered. Made for diesel and super engines. Remember, after every 15,000 kilometers of enjoying your ride, service your engine with Goil Synthetic Oil.
We are a champion. That's why I, Azuma Nelson, 3 times world boxing champion and a patriot, always choose Goil.
Ashene Pankasa. Goil, good energy.
Schedules of vessels that are sitting in the port, those that are far away at anchorage, those expected in the coming week and the Bank of Ghana exchange rate are all next on your screens. In the coming weeks in this year 2018, we will be reporting extensively on some of the unethical practices that are happening around the port business. We'll be hearing from all the stakeholder agencies, and a lot of concerns are coming in that we should raise the issue of miscellaneous and why at all are we still charging miscellaneous if indeed paperless has come to stay. Also, the Port Authority through the finance management and department, as well as the public relations and customer services, they have a desk waiting for you. If you get an invoice from your agent and you suspect it, even if you don't suspect it, please come and verify the invoices you have before making any payment. Again, they are advising you that do not give any fiscal cash to your agent. Go straight to the bank yourself and pay the monies. In that way, go straight to the agency you are paying to. That's it for this week's episode of Eye on Port. We have to say a big thank you to you for always making time to watch their program, and also thanks a lot to the team who make the program possible. Robert Nyantechi, Godwin Kabuchi, Solomon Anderson, Joe Lavo, Joe Bone, Belinda Decker, Lawrence Gezi, and the executive producers Abna Sewa Opokufosu and Esther JB Donko. Also, a lot of thanks goes to the man who moved all of us around, very calm and collected young man, Minta. We say a big thank you to you. Thanks for watching.